We have a surprising Cowboys trade incoming as we have huge updates on Mazi Smith and why he is once again going to be a healthy and active for week 2. Trade rumors are starting to fly and now mock trades are coming in too. Seems like Mazi Smith is on the move here soon. Welcome into Cowboys Digest, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews. I appreciate you tuning in to today's show. Have so much to discuss involving Mazi Smith and a trade. Seems like that is a real possibility at this point, and what probably is the best option for the Dallas Cowboys, to be honest with you. So let's get right into it with the first and biggest report of it all being that the Cowboys are once again going to make Mazi Smith a healthy inactive for week 2, as Cowboys coaches are labeling it as Mazi needs more consistency, whether that be in practice, on the field. We'll have a quote from Matt Eberflus here in just a moment, kind of talking about what exactly he means by this, but really a struggling career here for Mazi Smith. He's been switched around at a defensive line and kind of figuring out, I see a 1-tech, 2-tech, 3-tech on that defensive tackle. You add in Kenny Clark to the situation, and right now there just isn't really a spot for him, and so that's why, once again, he is a healthy scratch in week 2. Of course, this started labeling all sorts of reports, but funny enough, he was actually listed this week on top trade candidates for Bleacher Report. Unfortunately, it's more of a salary dump, but that caused headlines all across the media outlets saying this Cowboys first round bust now, as they're labeling Mazi Smith, which I honestly think that it's time to start labeling that. He's tabbed as a top NFL trade candidate. So before we get too far in this show, and I'm going to tell you about the mock trades, what the Cowboys are looking to get back for him, and all that sorts, but I want to hear from you, Cowboys Nation. Do you think it's time to trade Mazi Smith? If you think it is time to trade him, then I want you to type Y for yes in the comments. If you think no, he's a first-round pick, we got to give him a little more time, he's been switching around the defensive line, I want you to type in for no. I want you to let me know down in the comment section below. Personally, I think it's time, just simply because you got Kenny Clark, and the defensive line is in such a good spot that you're not really in need of Mazi Smith anymore. I know it's a different position, but hopefully you're going to get back to Marion Overshown. Maybe that can make you feel better, at least, about getting off of Mazi Smith. So that's personally my opinion, but at the same time, my opinion is not the one that matters. It's the one of Jerry Jones. So looking at the first 2 seasons for Mazi Smith, like I said, it's been really, really disappointing. He played in 17 games in both 2023 and in 2024. 2024, he saw a bigger role, as he had 41 tackles, 22 of those solo, and just one sack in each of his career years. So going to be kind of an odd situation there, but I want to talk more about that Bleacher Report article that I mentioned as we go into a report here from Sean Devaney of Heavy on Cowboys, saying, quote, at Bleacher Report, in a list of the top 10 players on the 2025 NFL trade market on Wednesday, Smith came in at number 4 overall. Don't expect much in return if a deal is to be found, as BR pegs Smith's trade value as a conditional 2026 6th-round pick, end quote. Here's the big thing, though. Before the trade of Micah Parsons, this was being talked about whether or not the Cowboys should move off Mazi Smith, and ESPN even got to the point where they said, you know what, it's going to help free up money. They're going to be able to sign Micah. We're going to get them a 2026 5th-round pick, and the Seahawks would then get Mazi Smith and a 2026 6th-round pick. So in theory, you're doing a pick swap, and you're giving off the contract of Mazi Smith to the Seattle Seahawks. However, in this deal that ESPN labeled, it was going to be a lot of money taken on for the Cowboys. So in a lot of ways, it's a good trade, but you're still paying a lot of money. But this was before the trade of Micah Parsons. Now Micah Parsons has been traded. He's going to be inactive for 2 consecutive weeks. And teams across the league understand that Mazi Smith has the talent to be a top-tier defender. I mean, he was a first-round pick for a reason, and maybe a change of scenery could help him out. But they also know that the Dallas Cowboys are in a very interesting spot, and that they can't really ask for much. Like, there's nothing that they can go out there and be like, oh yeah, guess what, guys? We have Mazi Smith, and you got to give us a good price. I'm like, no. The Cowboys would like to get off him. Like, that's such an easy thing for little teams to kind of hold over the Cowboys' head. Christopher Knox of Bleacher Report says, quote, with Kenny Clark now manning the middle of their defense, the Cowboys appear to have little interest in letting Smith learn on the field. This means he can probably be had for pennies on the dollar, end quote. It's unfortunate, but at this current time, the value for Mazi Smith is at an all-time low. And at the same time, the usage of Mazi Smith for the Dallas Cowboys and the usefulness on this team is at an all-time low. The Cowboys do not need him, and really, the Cowboys do not want him at this point. You can say consistency all you want, but if we go to the official quote here from what head coach or defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus said, he said, quote, just consistency. He's done that, just at more a consistent level. That's really it. That's been our message to him throughout the building. He's improving on that for sure, end quote. That quote to me, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, when I see that quote, I see a defensive coordinator who is basically saying, yeah, I mean, he's doing the right things in practice, but he needs to be more consistent. Like that's such a cop-out answer in my mind, to the point where it seems like they're waiting for a trade or somebody to come out or something to drop, like the other shoe, because I can't see a situation this season that the Cowboys effectively use Mazi Smith on the defensive line. Like, they are in a position now where that is just something they do not need to have. This defensive depth chart is in a pretty good spot. Osa Odighizuwa had a great week one. Same can be said for Kenny Clark. And they use Jay Toia and Solomon Thomas a lot. Solomon Thomas got high praise from Coach Schottenheimer after week one. You think they're going to let Mazi Smith play? I really don't think so. I don't think they are. It's kind of an odd situation here. Obviously, there's, what will the Cowboys do? What will the value? Well, I think in some ways you can still get a pretty good value for Mazi Smith, and you need something to trade at this point. Christopher Knox, once again, here of Bleacher Report with his report saying, quote, Smith was viewed as a raw prospect coming out of college and was always expected to need time to develop. He's still a 6'3", 337-pound former first-round pick with tremendous amount of untapped potential. A change of scenery might be required for him to reach it. Which is true. I think at the same time you can talk about Mazi Smith and the struggles he has had. If you were able to get him on a change of scenery, I think it actually could be a good thing for either side. And so what were the potential suitors listed out there? Well, we talked about the Seahawks, but here is what the Bleacher Report suitors are listed as. Detroit Lions and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we could see either of those teams pop in, which, we see this as a potential trade. It's going to be a conditional 2026 sixth-round pick. It's hard for the Cowboys to expect much more value than this because in some ways they themselves have tanked the value of Mazi Smith for a couple of different reasons. Obviously, not playing him is a big one. The way they speak about him is another one. And I think the biggest one of them all, if you've been paying attention and following the Cowboys for the past couple of years since Mazi's been drafted, you know that in the interior defensive line, there's 1 tech, 2 tech, 3 tech, basically how in the way you're going to shape your body, whether it's going to be more speed, more quickness, kind of handling what you expect to see on the offensive line. And they've moved Mazi Smith into different technical positions. They've made him, lose a couple pounds, and that way he can be more agile. That didn't really work. This year, they bumped him back up, went back to a 3-tech, and now he's not as agile, and they're not using him at all. So it's a very intriguing situation for the Cowboys to say, like, okay, we know that right now Mazi Smith is not at a high value for really any potential reason, but in some ways that was their own doing. That being said, that's the exact reason why it's time to move off. It's time to just be done with it. I think there's no reason to keep this guy around. And for his career, for the Cowboys' ideology, I think it's better at this point to just let it go. You're not going to get a good first-round pick. You're not going to get something in actual value back. But at the same time, I do believe that you are also not going to waste this spot at this point. So I sit here and I wait, and I think it just makes sense. It's time to move on. 1 sack in 17 games. Last year, 1 sack in 17 games. The previous year, and right now, I look at Mazi Smith and say, I don't think this is going to work anymore. I really don't. We have to wait. We have to wait and see. And hopefully, maybe the Cowboys can figure something out, and it's a good thing. But otherwise, I think it might actually be time to move on. So we'll see what happens. Again, if you want to go back to this first question and see maybe I changed your mind, do you think it's time to trade Mazi Smith? Yes. Or Y for yes, in for no. Let me know down in the comment section. But for now, guys, we appreciate you, and we'll see you next time here on Cowboys Digest. For now, though, guys, peace out.